All right. We will call the meeting of the Wright County Planning Commission to order on February 4th here. The first item will be to approve the meeting minutes from January 14th. Has everybody been able to look those over? And is there any additions or corrections? If not, could I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mike and seconded by Commissioner Bravender. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll have a roll call vote starting to my left.
Bravender votes aye.
Felger votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
Tanner votes aye. Tanner votes aye.
Okay. And Maul votes aye. Motion carries. All right, first on the agenda is the Minnesota CSG 10 LLC. Sean, do you want to take it from here?
Yes, Mr. Chair, can you confirm for me the slides are advancing?
Right now you have the map up.
Okay, so it's working, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, as you're probably aware, the county board took action on a interim ordinance for a moratorium on land use decisions on solar. So at this time, we need to continue this item until the county board lifts that ordinance, and then we would be doing re-notifications on this particular request.
Okay. So is there any questions or discussions on that, or do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
I guess I'd like to ask Greg, is there a need or a reason to ask for public comment, or is this action limited to the continuation?
Mr. Chair and Sean, we were limited to just continuing this at this time. We can't process it. So having a public hearing would be considered processing the application. So no, the public hearings at this time is put on pause. We'll re-notify any public of this matter and give them the new date.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify and make sure.
Okay, then I would be back to ask for a motion to continue.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion made by Dan Bravender. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mike Ketchmark. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Bravender aye.
Felger abstains for the following reason, Mr. Chair. I don't necessarily object to a moratorium in itself. However, I think it's patently unfair to any applicant applying for any CUP or ordinance change or such before the county, that those who are pending are kind of left up in the air. I just think it's patently unfair. Therefore, I'm going to have to abstain on this, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Tanner is aye.
Ketchmark
Thompson, aye.
Was that
Ballberg's aye.
okay? It sounds like we have everybody, so the motion carries to continue, and Felger has abstained. So, moving on to number 2 would be Joe Ballant. Okay. Okay, Sean, do you want to take it from there? Sean?
I'm sorry. The applicant is requesting more time to work on the professional information and the request is to continue to the next meeting on February 25th.
Okay, do I have a motion to continue, please?
Mr. Chair, this is Felger. I would like to make that motion, please.
All right, Ken has the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And
This
Janice
is Thompson.
seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Ravender, aye.
Felger, aye.
Tanner, I.
Thompson, I.
Ketchmark, aye.
Malberg, aye.
All right, motion passes, and we will continue. Thank you. Number 3 would be James Price.
I'm here on the phone call.
Oh, this is Albert. We got one before you. We got one before you. Sorry.
Is it just you, Jim?
Yeah, it's just me.
Mr. Splinter's not in attendance?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Sean, there's a lot of noise in the background.
Yeah, it's the county boardroom. They're getting turned over here.
Okay.
Okay,
Tell
Sean,
me,
we're ready.
you ready? Mr. Chair, this item, recommendation for rezoning was made by the Planning Commission and approved by the county board.
Okay,
Advancing the slides here.
okay.
Conditional use permit for the subdivision is in front of the board. Again, you did a site inspection, are familiar with the property. The survey is being displayed now with the layout of the lots. All the professional information has been submitted and reviewed, and the standards are being met. Staff has a recommended motion taking into account those standards and conditions if the Planning Commission is inclined to approve the request as applied for.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Does the applicant have anything to add?
Not at this time.
Okay, Sean, do we have anybody from the public?
I did not have a request for this item to have the invite, so I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone here from the board have any input or anything to say? If not, are we ready for a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Dan?
I'd like to make a motion to approve a conditional use permit for a 9-lot unplatted subdivision in accord with the survey completed by Meyer Rowland Land Services with revisions dated 2/2/21, file number 19449. With the following conditions. 1, per feedlot regulations, the new AR parcels will be allowed 1/2 animal unit per and will not be allowed to reach 10 animal units in any building that houses animals. Will need to be 100 feet from property lines. Number 2, driveways will need to be placed as shown on the survey. Parcels B and C, parcels E and F, parcels G and H will all have shared driveway accesses. Access easements will need to be recorded prior to or during the sale of any of these lots. Access permits will need to be obtained through the township or all the lots along Acacia Avenue through the County Highway Department for parcel I.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion, and do I have a second?
Second from Corey.
All right, thank you. I have a motion from Dan Bravender and a second from Corey. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussions, we'll have a roll call vote.
Ravender votes aye.
Felger votes aye.
Tanner votes aye.
Thompson votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
Malberg, aye.
Wall, aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciated.
All right. Next on the agenda is number 4 would be Stephen Alberg.
Steve, are you online?
No, they are entering the room.
Thank you.
If you can give your names, please, to Terry for the record.
Greg Alberg. I'm Steve Alberg.
Thank you. All right, Sean, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, the property is in Southside Township on the northwest side of Pleasant Lake. It's in the land use plan as ag residential. The zoning is agriculture. As the chair will know, it recently went through a Board of Adjustment hearing to alter a lot of record out of the property. The request is to rezone the north half of the property from ag to ag residential. And the concept plan showing 2 lots that meet the standards of 10 acres and then the dimensional standards. So the request today is for the rezoning.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Is there anything you would like to add to that as applicants?
Oh, we've plodded through the process. A lot of new things brought to our attention. I can't think of what else we'd say. We're basically following guidance.
Okay. Sean, do we have anybody from the public? Sean, is there anyone from the public?
I did not get a request from anybody on this item.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll come back here to the board members. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
Mr. Chair, this is Jan.
Yes, Jan, go ahead.
I have a question. On the slide that we received with showing the concept plan, there is writing in the left-hand margin that points to Lot 1 as being AR, Lot 2 is rezoned to AR, and Lot 3 is to remain ag. Could you explain that to me, Sean?
So that is correct, Jan. The overall property has already gone through a Board of Adjustment review to add to the lot of record out of the ag parcel.
Okay.
The remainder that you see as the proposed AR Lot 1, proposed AR Lot 2, the request is to change the zoning from ag to ag residential so they can do 2 additional lots next to that ag zone property.
Okay. So the lot or the property that's outlined in green, is that to remain AG2, or I don't understand how that breaks out. Is that a separate lot than that's outlined in green?
I'm not necessarily seeing green, but I'm assuming you're talking about the existing house on the south part of the property.
Yes.
That's to stay agriculture.
Okay. All right. Well, then I understand.
Okay.
And one other thing though is that there was concern about the driving across the property to make sure that the wetlands weren't being considered buildable area. That's all been resolved as I read the minutes. Is that so? And the reports?
To that extent, Soil and Water has sent over an exhibit showing there's wetlands on the property. So if the rezoning's approved, we'll have to make sure all the details at the subdivision review are in order.
Okay, well, that answers my question. Thank you, Sean.
Okay. Does the applicant have something you want to add?
I was gonna interject, and as you were describing your concern there's a road, an existing road on the extreme southern portion. There's a narrow sliver below that, 2 acres with the house on it that has an existing road that goes back to the property that's along the lake there, so for all practical purposes, they'd have no reason to cross that swamp to get to the other property. There's a nice road going in there to the lakeshore portion.
Okay. Thank you. Did you hear that, Janice?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments? If there's no other comments or concerns, and it is in the land use plan, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Ken. I do have a inquiry, perhaps to Sean. Now, since Lot 3 is severing lots 1 and 2 from shoreland, should this pass, it's my understanding that lots 1 and 2 would be Ag S2, Ag AR, I'm sorry, AR S2. Why would an S2 designation still remain with lots 1 and 2?
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, Ken, that is a designation of being within 1,000 feet of the boundary of the lake. So it's within 1,000, those 2 lots are within 1,000 feet of Pleasant Lake. So they're S2, whether it's got riparian or not.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Ken, thank you. Any other questions? If not, are we ready for a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Ken. I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right, Ken, go ahead.
I would move to recommend approval of the rezoning to the County Board of Commissioners to rezone the north 23 acres of the property from Ag, General Agricultural, and S2 Residential Recreational Shorelands to AR, Ag Residential, and S2 because the board feels it meets the criteria laid out in the land use plan and the town board approves.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ken has a motion and Mike has the second. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Ravender votes aye.
Felger votes aye.
Tanner votes aye.
Thompson votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
Malberg votes aye.
Maul votes aye. Motion carries. All right, do I have a motion for continuing the hearing for the subdivision part?
I'll make that motion. This is Jan.
Okay, Janice. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
For continuing, will you have your work done by the next meeting? What is the date for the next?
25th would be the next meeting.
Next meeting would be the 25th of February.
We would have to talk. Pretty close. As far as the surveying and what else?
Yeah. Soil borings and survey and,
There will be soil borings for sure.
okay, will you be able to make that by the 25th of February?
And we possibly.
You can push it out
Contact our guide and find out.
March 18th?
Let's go with March 18th.
Okay.
We can be done by then.
Okay, we'll continue it until March 18th. That's okay with you, Janice? Janice?
Oh, yes, that's just fine with me. Mhm.
Okay. And we have a motion with Janice and a seconded by Mike, and a roll call vote.
Ravender votes aye.
Felger votes aye.
Tanner votes aye.
Thompson votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
Smallberg's aye.
Mall is aye. So, motion carries, and we will see you back in March
Okay. All right.
for
March 18th.
potentially the final leg.
Yeah. Perfect. Will there be a form I have to fill out like for this meeting?
Nope. We'll send you a notice on the continuation and get the borings and the survey in as soon as you can.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we're switching things over here and going to number 5 for Kenneth Schwartz.
Is Ken on?
You can just grab right here, table here, and please give your name for the record.
Ken Schwartz.
All right, whenever you're ready, Sean.
Mr. Chair, the property is in Silver Creek Township. The property is zoned agriculture. It's in the land use plan as ag residential. The request is to mine a portion of the property, approximately 20 acres, including processing. The access would be onto the county road with requirements by the highway department. As you can see at this time, we do not have a formal recommendation from the township. They have continued the item. And to let you know, we have a number of people online, I'm assuming for public comment when we get to that point.
All right, thank you, Sean. Okay, we'll go to the applicant. I guess, can you fill us in on what you're planning on doing?
Planning on mining for gravel materials, washing, crushing, the normal operations that would go on. As the plan stands there, I plan would be to start like in the middle of that site plan there, and then work east and west as needed for material, depending on where it is actually located.
Okay.
So I would, for the first year, I would probably be about 400 feet from the west line. And 300 feet from the east line. So for the first year, I would be pretty much right in the middle, right where the topals is changing back and forth there.
Okay.
The access would come in down by that power pole, if you can see it there. That I have been working with the county on, the highway department.
Okay.
Correct, yes. Yep. They've verbally okayed that with me. They want to see the drawing on it.
Turn lanes and such.
Yeah, we got to talk about the turn lanes as part of the.
Okay.
I will continue to farm to the north As you can see how it's kind of curved, that's supposed to kind of follow the pivot line, the irrigation line.
Okay.
So I would continue to farm all of that.
So,
Mr. Chair, this is Paul Otto. I'm also representing, I'm online.
okay, go ahead, Paul.
I can tell you a little bit about the mine design itself. We're coming off of County Road 75 with a 36-foot wide haul road. And this mine is a little bit different than a lot of the mines that you've seen where we kind of take out of a side here. This one, we're going to dig a hole about 30 feet deep to gather the material in that triangular area. So there will be no water runoff. Everything will stay contained within the site. And then the plan is to fill it back up with clean fill as that's available, presumably road projects and such like that. So it should be pretty minimal as far as site goes because we're going down. And then that'll also help the noise volume as we get into the middle of the mine.
Okay, thank you. All right, you have anything else you want to add at this time?
Pretty much is what it looks like there.
Okay. All right, Sean, I guess if we have people from the public, I would like to go to the public right now. And I would ask that the public would try to keep their comments to approximately 4 to 5 minutes.
Scott and Donna, looks like you have your hands raised first, if you'd like to go ahead. Make sure you're unmuted. There you go. We can hear you.
We were only notified of this elaborate plan 10 days ago, and we did attend the township board meeting 2 days ago. It was continued at the township level because every one of the neighbors objected. There are some concerns about water quality and some concerns, and so we asked that this be tabled until we have an opportunity to gain information and process that information. I don't know if Mr. Schwartz has any mining experience previously. So we asked that the proposal be tabled.
Could we get your last name, please, for the record?
Pasternak, Pasternak.
All right, thank you. Sean, do we have somebody else?
I'm sure we do, but I don't. Is there somebody else that would like to comment on the mining request?
Barry and Sally, would you like to unmute?
Remember to unmute yourselves.
Yeah. Okay. I unmuted. Am I on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sally Heikkinen. I live on Barton Avenue, which would be approximately 2 miles from this pit. I just have a statement. When residents purchase agricultural and residential properties, I feel we have a reasonable expectation that further zoning changes and land use would not adversely impact our property value, health, and environment. And I feel this is one such proposal. This would put potentially 3 active gravel pits within a 4-mile radius to the north, to the east, and to the west, affecting hundreds of residents. This plan has the potential to leave scars for decades. I respectfully ask that you table this so our township and residents have the time to properly discuss this. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next person with their hand up is Kate.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Kate Dietl, Dietel. I am an adjacent property owner to where this proposed mine is going to go. And I also request that this matter be tabled, given the short notice to both the residents and the township board. There has not been given proper time to make an educated decision and look into all the open questions related to this project. So I also ask for it to be tabled.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, no one else has their hand raised, at least in the Teams platform. So if you want to open it up, and if someone is interested, they'd have to unmute this for talk then.
Yes, make sure you unmute yourselves if you're wanting to speak to the gravel pit request.
There's a BH with a hand up.
Yes. That would probably be me. I would have one question that I asked at the township meeting that really wasn't responded to. I asked the person who's presenting this about an EAW, and from what I understand, my understanding is that anything over 40 acres would require that. And I asked about my concern about is the fact that we're starting at such a small piece, that there would just be this continuation down the road. And that's where my concern is, that this could end up being more environmental, because he stated he didn't know what an EAW was. So I don't know if my question or concern made sense, but I am kind of curious about where the county is on that, where that comes in. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Could you get her name?
Sally Heikkinen.
That was Sally, okay.
Yep. All right, is there anyone else?
This is Robert Essie. I agree that it should be tabled. This is too short a notice for the neighbors and people involved to address it. But I wanted to ask either Ken or Otto, what is the depth of the gravel vein on this property?
Go ahead, Ken, if you can answer that.
We're asking for 32 feet. I don't know the exact detail to your question. I guess there's layers of sand and rock and some clay. So I'm not sure exactly, but the depth that we're asking for is 32 feet.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? All right, if there's no other public comment, we'll come now back up here to the board. And I guess, I don't know how far the board wants to get in this. If you want to ask some questions, if the board is feeling that we should do a site inspection, or how far you want to go. That's up to the board here. So has anybody got any comments or thoughts?
Mr. Chair, this is Ken.
Yeah, Ken, go ahead.
I would like to ask Mr. Riley a question, if he could indulge me, please, and go back to the beginning of the slides rather slowly and kind of recap each one, please.
Somebody's got a hand up there too, Jenny Bray.
Yeah, we're at the board now, so. We can't hear you, Sean, if you're talking.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, Sean, if you could start over again, please.
Yeah, just a second. It takes a while to catch up here. So the property is zoned agriculture. It's in the land use plan as ag residential. One air photo of the property. For reference, the other gravel pits that were noted in testimony, the one we've seen up on Lock Lake west of the property off of the interstate. And then Barden's gravel pit just south of the Mississippi River and north of this pit, or this request. The existing conditions by air photo. The proposed pit location on approximately 20 acres. Existing topography. The mining plan. So as described, the depth is a hole 32 feet deep to take out the resource, also including the processing of materials. And the restoration plan, which is being described and shown as essentially bringing materials back in to fill back to close or similar original grade.
Now, Sean, going back to the first or second slide, what is the surrounding zoning around there currently? Yes, right there.
So wherever you see white, it's still zoned agriculture. And where you see the light green, it's ag residential, 10-acre lots, which you can see sort of reflected in the air photo. The 10-acre lots around the AR, and the rest of the density is under agricultural standards, either 1/40s or dividing out lots pre-ordinance.
Sean, in your estimation, how close is the nearest residential structure?
Well, it would be properties to the east, shown on that slide. I would approximate that between 400 to 1,000 feet to decide, depending on which house you went to.
Thank you, Sean. Mr. Chair, is the applicant available for a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, should this pass ultimately, do you have any projects upcoming for your product you intend on mining?
Right at this moment, I have nothing under contract.
Very well, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Sean.
I do have 3 people that are raised their hands, Jenny Bray, the Pisternox, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and Kate.
Okay, go ahead. We'll go back to the public.
Jenny, unmute yourself, please, if you have a comment.
Can you hear me?
We can.
This is Jenny Bray. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my main concern with this project was the groundwater, because there's a, I don't know how much water is needed to run a gravel pit, but I know it's going to be a lot more than a residence will take. And right now, we were told when we drilled our well that there was only 3 feet of water above the bedrock. And I have real concerns that there's not going to be enough water for the residents if it's been being taken for the gravel pit.
Okay.
Did you have any other comments, Jenny?
Well, I would like a response to that.
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, at this time, I don't have either the ability to research that or the information in front of me to answer it. Maybe Mr. Otto or the applicant would like to speak to the amount of water they potentially would be using in the processing.
Do you know that, Ken, or would Paul know that?
No, and I think it's hard to know exactly, given the nature of wells, what is in what area, and what is not in the area. So I guess can't answer that question. I guess
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, Paul Otto here.
Okay, Paul.
We can probably, I'm assuming we can reach out to somebody and determine what an average amount of water that a crusher uses. It would only be the crushing. Obviously, if we're just mining pit run sand, we don't need any water. So we can probably reach out. It's going to depend on the product you're making, but we can maybe get some sort of an idea of that for the board.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Yep.
All right, Sean, is there someone else?
Scott and Donna, did you have a follow-up question or comment?
I hope you can hear me now.
We can hear you, yes.
Okay. I would like it noted in the record that we keep talking about a 23-acre mine site, but the parcel is 53 acres. And the applicant himself admits that potentially he might expand this if it is successful. So I would suggest that if the mine is going to be confined to just 23 acres, that area be platted out, separate PFD be assigned to, so that we're assured that this mine will only be 23 acres and not expand the entire 53-acre parcel. If the 50-acre parcel is to be considered, then I would suggest that the PCA be required. Thank you.
Sean, can you recap that for us here in the room, because it was very difficult to hear?
Yes, there's concern that the mining operation would have the potential to expand beyond the requested 19 acres. And the request was to somehow partition off or limit the mining operation to this request so there would not be future expansion.
Okay, thank you.
John, this is Jan. It's really hard to hear you now also.
I don't know what happened there.
Okay, now I can hear you. Yep. Now
I think it's a combination of people muting and unmuting.
I see. Okay. Could you just repeat what you said, please? Sorry.
We had a public comment that they were concerned the mine could expand beyond the 19 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a way to partition off the property or limit it so there would not be future expansion.
Thank you.
All right, you want to go to the next one, Sean?
Yes, Kate, did you have a follow-up comment?
I did. Can you tell me the distance to the nearest residential structure on the west side of the property? Or west of the mine?
I don't have my measuring stuff up, but it's the nearest property is across the field to the west. I'm going to approximate 800-900 feet.
Okay. I was told
Mr. Chair,
700.
Mr. Chair, I can help with that if you wish. Paul Otto.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I just scaled it out. Sean, you're pretty much right on at 800 feet to that house to the west. And then it was talked about earlier to the east, that's about 900 feet to the mine. The outbuildings on that parcel are about 600 feet away from the mine.
Can you comment on the outbuilding on the west parcel?
That's about a little over 700 feet.
And then a follow-up question would be what kind of site, sound, and dust barriers are going to be put in place?
Do you want me to comment on that, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Paul, if you could comment on that with the design.
Sure. So to the west, the property continues to rise. As it's been mentioned, this mine will go into the ground. So we will be, there's a knob almost on the property line, on the west property line. The bottom of the mine is going to be about 50 feet lower than that knob. So most of your sound and dust and such will hit the side of the mine and not get out. On the east side of the mine, there will be a time we have about 18 feet or so that we're going to take off the side hill before we get to the eastern side of the mine. So there will be a time in the first life of this mine that sound will be able to be heard to the east and dust and such until we get below grade. But once we get below grade, most of that sound is going to hit the edge of the mine and go straight up, as well as the dust. That going down will help all of those things over a standard mine. In my opinion, I guess I should say.
All right, thank you, Paul. All right, Sean, do we have somebody else?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm getting a few hands up from the same parties, so I'm not sure where the Planning Commission is wanting to go with this on further questions about questions, or if they want to do a site inspection.
Okay, I will bring it back up here to the board. Is there any other questions that the board would have? Dan Bravender?
Greg, are you on? I have a question for you.
I am. How are you, Dan?
I'm good. As far as limiting the future expansion of the mine, is that something that can be done through this conditional use process or not?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Bravender, I would probably recommend against doing that. You have a current plan before you. You know, if you put that condition on there, they could always come back and apply to ask that the condition be removed or amended. So I think you're better off just approving it as the plan, knowing that that's where it's going to be, because a future board could always change whatever this board does. So if that makes sense.
It does. That's kind of what I was leaning towards, but I wanted to hear it from the expert.
Okay, Greg, or Sean, I mean, this is probably more for Sean. Do we have up in that area of the county any of the aggregate resource area designated?
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, we do not. What you're referring to is an attempt in our land use plans to designate resource areas, and it had limited success and only in one area, and this was not one of them.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any other comments from any board members?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair?
Hold on, Corey. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Mr. Otto, and as long as you're here, and I don't know how far along you're going to follow the process, but just as a matter of foundation, you were asked, I'll call it a loaded question, to address sight, sound, and dust. And just for clarification for the board and others concerned, could you, now I know you're in the surveying and drawing up plans for these, but could you speak to your experience and training, if you have any, to monitoring and managing these issues at a gravel pit?
Certainly, yes, I'm a licensed land surveyor and a professional engineer. And I do a lot of mining plans. And my point in that, why I added in my opinion, is that it is my opinion. I am not speaking as an expert in gravel mines and sound and dust traveling. What I am trying to point out to the board is that this mine is different than a lot of them that I've designed in the county or that they've looked at. Most of them in the county have one open face. It isn't, we aren't going straight down in the ground. we are typically taking out a side hill, and half of the mine is exposed and more open to the elements and more chance for sound to travel, if you will. So hopefully that clarifies my comments.
I think so. Thank you, Mr. Otto.
Okay. Corey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had two questions. One was for the applicant. I was wondering what kind of vehicles you intend to have on going through here. Are they semi-trucks, I'm assuming, and dump trucks and boom trucks, or?
Yeah, I guess the market will kind of determine that. But yeah, I would assume it would be, you know, end dumps, side dumps, straight job trucks. I guess whatever is legal to haul in, I guess.
Right, and that's kind of where my second question goes for maybe you or Mr. Otto. That transmission line that runs over the property there, it's a 345 kV transmission line. Has there been any outreach to the power provider with regards to passing beneath it?
Paul, do you have any response?
Sure, yep, and Ken, you can jump in there. One of the plans that I prepared for, Ken, was a plan for the berm and showing the entrance to the property as well as the berm, because that is all within their easement. And we had to make one modification to move the driveway a little bit further away from that main power pole. But my understanding, and Ken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they did approve my plan for the berm and the entrance.
They did.
Who approved the plan?
Excel Energy.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Mike?
Mr. Schwartz, so just want to clear up as far as utility access, are you for sure planning on having a well there and electrical power running there for work lights or to run the well or generators, or what's the plan for that part?
I would hope to have a well. If not, I would probably grab it from my irrigation.
Okay.
It would be nicer to have it on site, but as far as power, yeah, we'd have to bring power in from co-op.
Okay, so you have a plan to get power in there. And somebody asked about water and as far as the usage that the pit would have. So I'm trying to clarify if you for sure had a plan to get water and use water. I'm sure if there's a dust control truck, you're gonna...
Yeah, so we'll have a tanker truck down there that if it starts to get dusty, we'll have to water it all down.
But you have another need for water besides the dust control truck, it sounds like, with the crusher maybe, or?
Yeah, and that, you know, a crusher usually is like a maybe 5 to 10 day period. Usually that's scheduled in and it's there for a short time. And
okay. Well, I guess I'd just like to throw something out to the board. If this is tending to be going toward a site inspection, do we want to put the rest of the questioning on hold and do this all at one time another time, or do we want to piece up the questions from the board now and then come back? Because I think some could potentially be answered with the site inspection, but more might come up. What's the thought, to kind of piece this up into two, or to time out now and go up and look and revisit it?
Yeah, and normally what we do is we have a few questions like we have been, but usually we don't get real in-depth into it until we do look at the property, if that is the direction the board wants to go. I guess I would ask if there's anybody else on the board that has any questions that they would like to ask now, or if the board wants to do a site inspection and go up there and take a look and either have some of your questions answered that way or create more questions, one or the other.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Janice?
I would make a motion that we do a site inspection and take into consideration the things that we've heard today, and it might open up questions for the future. So my motion would be to continue for a site inspection.
Okay, what meeting do you want to continue to? The February 25th?
I would like to go to the February meeting.
Mr. Chair, I think the township commented that they're not going to be reviewing this till March. Is that correct?
Oh, okay. Well, then I...
Yeah, March 2 is when they'll be reviewing it next.
Okay. All right, then what is the date of the first meeting after
18th.
the township gets done with their meeting?
March 18th would be our next meeting for planning here in Buffalo.
Okay, well, let's set it then for March 18th.
Okay, I have a motion by Janice
I'll
to
second that.
continue and a second by Dan Bravender. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Corey.
I just had a question, and maybe it's for Sean, because I'm newer at this. So we heard a lot of discussion from residents about it should go back to the township board. Can you just explain that process a little bit, why it came to our board, and just so I'm clear?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, so part of every CUP request is going to the town board and getting their recommendation. In this case, the town board had a hearing, but they were not prepared to make a recommendation, so they continued it. It is a scheduled public hearing for us because we have authority on the CUP. So the Planning Commission needs to continue it to get the recommendation from the township. And there's been a motion to also do a site inspection between that time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mike?
So do we want to make it part of the record to set the date and time of the site inspection with the applicant and others here, or will that be done at another time?
That'll be done. He's the last one on the agenda, but after we get the motion that we're gonna do that, then at the end of the meeting, we set the site inspection time and day.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll have a roll call vote.
Bravender votes aye.
Felger votes aye.
Danner votes aye.
Thompson votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
Smallberg's aye.
Small votes aye. Motion carries. We'll have a site inspection and continue this to the March 18th meeting. Okay? And then it's up to you, Kenny, if you want to stick around for another 10 or 15 minutes, we'll work at setting, because you're the last one on the agenda.
Okay.
So we'll work next time. Is there anything else, Sean, we need to go over before we work at setting in a site inspection day and time?
Mr. Chair, any discussions I have would be for after the meeting's closed and setting the site inspection.
Okay. So I think we can set a time and a date for site inspection. What do people have open, or where is the suggestions? You want to do it closer in March when there's more snow?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Janice?
I'm going to be out of town the 19th to the 3rd of March. So if it's possible, it would be agreeable to me to have it any time before or after those dates.
So you would be looking at the 8th to the 12th of March would work for you.
Yes, well, not the 8th, but the 12th would be better, or earlier than the 8th. From March 3rd to the 8th.
1 o'clock?
What question is, do we want to have it before the township has their meeting so that they can be out there and part of the site inspection? And their meeting is the 2nd of March on a Tuesday? So then that would put it for you to make it, that would have to be sometime next week then, right, Janice?
Yes, has, my husband's having surgery on the 8th. So maybe I'll just have to go and inspect on my own. So why don't I just leave the rest of it up to the time the selection up to the rest of the board.
Any other suggestions of when people are available?
February 17th work at all in the afternoon? Wednesday?
That doesn't work for me.
Okay. Monday, the 15th?
Of February?
Right.
That whole week.
Pardon me?
Sorry, that whole week is not good for me.
Oh,
Mr. Chair, I don't believe we can meet on the 15th. I think that's President's Day.
Okay.
You can if you do resolution.
Yeah, not gonna work.
Oh, come on, Greg.
like Greg would be there anyway.
Yeah.
I know.
Week of the 22nd for February?
Well, could we do before the planning meeting on the 25th?
25th would work good.
Since we're already gonna be here. You wanna say noon,
Oh,
Because that's
25th of February?
that's a planning,
that's planning
that's a
commission.
planning commission meeting that day.
So we can't meet at noon and go first, or
I'm okay with that.
it's either do it both one day or come back an extra?
I'm all in favor of saving trips over here.
What's your thought, Mr. Shorts?
So what day were you picking?
The 25th, it's
Yeah,
a
that
Thursday at noon.
Yeah, that works.
Ken, Corey, how does that work for you to be here? We'd have to be here at noon because it almost would have to be 11:30 because it's going to be a 20-minute drive out there approximately and a 20-minute drive back and then to have a meeting at 1.
Mr. Chair,
That would be,
Go ahead, Sean.
I don't know if this impacts me, it might, but beyond that, I don't know if I recommend trying to do a site inspection, an hour and a half before the scheduled meeting, depending on weather, and are you coming to the office, are you joining virtually, staff needing the assist being ready for that meeting? I don't know if we've ever done that before.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm just covering my end, so if something goes bad.
Yep. No, I understand what you're saying, Sean.
My suggestion might be if it could be done on March 2nd, that would be after our next meeting. So if you have a site inspection from that meeting, you could do it the 2nd, and then the township would be meeting that night if they join us for the site inspection.
Okay, let's narrow it down to March 1st or 2nd.
First might be too tight on our notice. Greg would have to answer that.
Well, you mean if you, but, yeah, we can put the two site inspections together.
Are we good on that, Greg?
How's your meeting for the 25th look, Sean?
Well, it doesn't matter. If we have a site inspection come from that meeting, can we do it the 1st or 2nd and put out a notice properly?
The 2nd you'd be fine because you could post on Friday.
Right.
The 1st you could be okay, assuming you could get it posted by 4:30.
On Friday?
On Thursday, after the March 1st would have to be posted right after the meeting.
We would be able to do that, I would think.
That's what I don't know what your agenda looks like.
Right.
If you have another 6:30 meeting, it would not work.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that.
Let's shoot for the 2nd, because then we know we would be safe. How does it look for all the members on the 2nd of March at 1 o'clock at the courthouse here to leave?
Felger's okay.
Is that township elections? No, that's the second week.
Tanner's okay.
I think it's
The ninth,
Shorts?
right?
Yeah, I think so.
Good?
You good? You good, Mike?
Right.
How about you, Mr.
Okay,
Greg?
what time again?
1 o'clock on the 2nd of March.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like the 2nd will work for people. Do I have a motion for a site inspection on the 2nd of March at 1 o'clock here at the Buffalo?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion made by Ken, seconded by Mike. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, is there anything else that we need to take care of, Sean?
Mr. Chair, I would request we close and dismiss the public hearing, and I just have a discussion item for the Planning Commission.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Schwartz, and we will see you on the 2nd.
How was that again?
We'll leave here at 1, so it'll put us out there probably 1:20, 1:25.
If we have others, we're gonna look at, we'll send you an agenda on the order. We might have others on, so.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, Sean, do you want me to close the meeting?
Please, yeah, if we're ready to close.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Do I have a second? Motion made by Janice, seconded by Mike. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. We are adjourned.